Welcome back to a Slice of News, where I cut you off a slice of news. For reasons that are immensely obvious, the Epstein files have become a serious thorn in President Trump's side. No matter how much he wants to get away from them or convince the American people that there's nothing to see and to just move on from them, it just isn't working. Attorney General Pam Bondi can say that they've released all the files they're going to release and that the Epstein files are basically over. The American people, especially Epstein's victims, feel it's absolutely far from over. And honestly, how could they? Despite the fact that Attorney General Pam Bondi claims the Department of Justice has released everything related to the Epstein files that they had to under the law, considering just how poorly handled the documents that they did release were, and how combative and evasive Attorney General Pam Bondi was when she was before the House Oversight Committee and she was pressed on questions about those releases, there's no reason to believe that claim, and almost reinforces the notion that there's a lot more that is yet to be uncovered and released. The harder the administration pushes that they put out everything they need to and there's nothing else to see, the more clear it becomes that they have not, and there absolutely is. The Epstein files have become this topic that just won't quit because it becomes increasingly obvious just how deep and far reaching this whole goes and how desperate those that are implicated in it are to have the American people not keep digging into it, clearly fearing what they will discover once they do. And as we already know, there have been some huge names already in these files. People like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, politicians like former President Bill Clinton, British royals like former Prince Andrew and his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson, big names in business, and of course probably the most frequently named current President Donald Trump. And those are just the names that the administration was compelled to uncover due to the law, despite the fact that that same law said the only names that were supposed to be redacted in the released Epstein files were the names of the victims. It's clear that there are many perpetrators whose names remained blacked out and kept from public view, which means that even though they've named a lot of names, there's still many that they are purposely keeping secret with no intention to fully release them. And considering the people that they did allow to be named, one can only wonder who could be so prominent, whose names would be so damaging if it got out, that the Department of Justice was willing to keep their names redacted, even when they were told repeatedly that they weren't supposed to. Pam Bondi has gone on record to say that she's released everything she had to and there's nothing else that the Department of Justice has to put out. This is contradicted by numerous sources such as lawyers and journalists who say that there are multiple documents, including emails, that should have appeared in the released files that do not. And I think it's safe to say that a couple emails are not the only things missing from what Pam Bondi claims is a complete Epstein file release. It seems increasingly clear that we are looking at a Watergate level cover up by the administration. And it really makes you wonder if they truly believe that they can gaslight the American people into believing they have nothing else to hide. And considering estimates that what they've put out is only a small percentage of what there is, I think it's safe to say it's not going to be very effective. When it comes to the Epstein files, the administration is having to deal with something very few administrations have: scrutiny from both sides of the political aisle. Several lawmakers and the American people, both red and blue, are putting pressure on the administration for full disclosure. They are feeling like it's clear that they are protecting perpetrators, and that is unacceptable. They want real justice and punishment for those who deserve it. But that can never come if the administration keeps pushing the narrative that there's nothing left to see, the president is completely innocent, and will people just stop being so fixated on these Epstein files? The whole purpose of the Epstein Files Transparency Act that basically forced the administration to release the documents that they did was accountability, and that's the one thing they have been consistently avoiding, both for themselves and for those implicated in those files. And even if it were true that all the documents that needed to come out have come out, and there's nothing else that the Department of Justice has to put out in accordance with the law, it doesn't end there. There are a lot of people that the House Oversight Committee would love to see testify before them, such as Bills Gates and Clinton and Hillary Clinton, who has been outspoken in her belief that the administration is perpetrating a cover-up when it comes to the Epstein files, who has said she's perfectly willing to give evidence in a publicly accessible forum, but Republican members on the House Oversight Committee have insisted that it must only be in a hearing behind closed doors. So as a result, she has yet to appear before them and tell them what she knows. Hillary Clinton herself has said she has nothing to hide, but clearly there are members of the committee who feel that what she has to say must be hidden from the public. If the administration wants to fight against accusations of a massive cover-up, that sort of decision certainly isn't helping their case there, because it also shows they're clearly afraid of what she may reveal and who she might name. As it stands right now, though, the Republicans, as they're the ones who have the majority in the House, are the ones who can control who appears before the committee. So they can call up the Clintons or Bill Gates to provide evidence before them, but they're not going to call a lot of the big conservative-leaning names from the Epstein files to give their own testimonies. If the Republican members of the committee are only willing to take evidence from people who they think will give them the information they want, and excluding an entire grouping of people purely because they share a political alignment with them, they're intentionally getting an incomplete set of testimonies and information, and just further lends credence to their seeming desire to not allow all of the truth to get out, only the parts that they want to be allowed to get out. Assuming November's midterms aren't massively tampered with and Democrats make huge gains in the House as they're projected to do and take that control back from the Republicans, there's a good chance that soon that committee will be able to call up whoever they want, regardless of whether the Republicans want them to be or not. At this point, it seems very clear that the administration has done everything in their power to stall and obfuscate and deny just about everything they possibly can when it comes to Epstein's relationship not only to the president, but to many other highly placed, rich, and powerful individuals. They seem to believe, possibly rightfully so, if this goes to its logical conclusion and convictions start coming out, the administration as a whole will be decimated and the system will collapse. But I think many, myself included, feel that if that is the case, then it should happen. If everything there is predicated on the idea that awful men must never be accountable or given the punishment they richly deserve for the awful things that they've done, then it should be allowed to collapse. It should come crashing down because that is not a system that deserves to continue existing. And none of them, not a single one of them, doesn't matter if they're Republican, Democrat, rich, powerful, royal, whatever, none of them deserve this type of protection. And they need to be brought into the light and punished. They need to see the inside of a cell and for a long time. And not just the victimizers named in the Epstein files, also people like Pam Bondi, who have worked tirelessly to make sure these people never suffer the consequences of their actions, and would even lie under oath if it meant protecting them. Much like Richard Nixon's Attorney General during Watergate, Pam Bondi has a cell waiting for her once this is all really over, and claiming she was only following orders is unlikely to save her from it. Now that the public has been made aware, well, as much as the administration has allowed them to be, about just how awful and horrible the things that happened with Epstein were, and how many highly placed individuals were involved in it, they will never stop wanting accountability and justice because they're rightly horrified by it, and they're not going to just let it go because the president has told them that he would really like it if they would. The president and the administration are up against a bipartisan push, and that's something that they cannot fight forever, because if both sides of the political aisle have united on one singular desire, which is to bring these people to justice, including the president, there's no getting away from it. It will happen. Punishment and convictions are coming, and I think unless his diet of McDonald's, Diet Coke, and candy get him first, there's not much way the president is going to avoid that exact fate. The Epstein files and the contents within them are now all too public, and they've enraged and horrified far too many people to make it somehow go away now. You can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. Now that it's out, it's out. And Americans are just not going to settle for anything but true accountability and justice. Accountability for the perpetrators and justice for the victims. The proverbial noose is tightening, and there is no escape for those that those Epstein files have named as doing wrong. And just moving on from them and forgetting about them isn't gonna happen. Alright guys, that'll be it for this episode of A Slice of News. I've been your host, Mr. Slice, and until next time when I cut you off, another slice of news. And don't forget to rate and review the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you find it.